Okay. We are live. It is recording, which recording is one of the most important parts. But I'm letting people come in here because I know there's been people waiting. But we are super, super excited for this webinar session today. But I just want to say welcome to this webinar, again, hosted by Travify Academy, with our three amazing panelists who I will introduce in just a couple minutes. But first, just to quickly introduce myself, anyone new to Travify Academy, I'm Stephanie Grice, and I'm the Senior Client Champion Education Coordinator here at Travify. And I just, again, want to thank everyone for being here today, including our panelists, for this really important conversation. Really, we just want to dig deeper into how we can make the travel industry more diverse and inclusive, whether it's for people of color, LGBTQ friendly, disabilities, and beyond. There's so many things that we need to start talking about it, and we just want to make it a common thing to have these conversations. So that's what we want to do. We want to carve out this space and talk about that all today. But before, though, I dive in deeper, I do want to quickly plug what Travify Academy is in case if this is your first time joining us here today. So Travify Academy is designed to be a free educational resource just to further Travify's mission to power the success of travel professionals. So you can always find webinar replays, articles, podcasts. Courtney was on a podcast before too. Yeah. You can find all of those at academy.travify.com. And also feel free to like our Facebook page and you can get all the up-to-date information there as well. But then I also want to make sure that you know this webinar is being recorded. So if you get a client call, need to hop off, no worries. This is going to be up on our YouTube channel and academy.travify.com shortly after this concludes today. So we'll get it up right away so you can watch it. And then we also do hope to have time at the end for a Q&A with our panelists. So feel free to ask those questions as they come through, and I'll be watching those. And that way, if we do have time, we can ask those to our panelists at the end. So now that we have all that out of the way, let's introduce our panelists here today. So first we have Edward Jean, who is owner of Massive Travels, ASTA SBN chapter president, and on the board of Association of Black Travel Professionals. And then we have Steph Lee, who is founder of Host Agency Reviews, which is a website that connects over 70,000 travel advisors a month to travel industry resources. And then we also have Courtney Nichols, who is founder of Travel Bash, which is a destination wedding concierge and CEO of TRVLB, a luxury travel design studio. But she also acts as an advisor and consultant to various travel brands who are looking to serve a more diverse group of modern cultural travelers through their tourism marketing efforts. So basically what we're going to talk about here today. So just want to welcome you all here. Thank you so much again for joining us. We are pumped to have you here on this webinar.
Yay. And everybody should know too that it's Stephanie's birthday today, and this is how she wanted to celebrate.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we've been debating if we need a cocktail, but we all have water on the rocks.
Yeah,
I like that.
water.
H2O on the rocks.
Yeah, the wine will be coming later. Maybe a couple hours after this ends, probably. So yes, nice. I'm super excited. And I did that on purpose. I wanted this to be on the birthday because it needs to be a big day. So that is what we're going to do. So yeah, so that's why this was scheduled today. So super excited again to be here with everyone. And so I'm going to start asking some questions here. So panelists, feel free, again, dive in at any point. So if you want to add to anything, feel free, because we're just going to have a conversation again. So it's going to be really great. So let's dive in with that being said, so we can have as much time as possible. So for our first question, this first question really just encompasses so much of the general discussion that we're going to have here today. So that question is with busy travel advisors in mind, because everybody's getting extremely busy right now, which is good, very good problem. But what recommendations do you have for them to continue to keep the diversity, equity, and inclusion needs and awareness just top of mind? So to go first, I'm just going to go ahead and pick you, Steph. We'll say, yes. Since we share the same name, I'm just going to go for you.
Perfect. Well, I think I know everybody is busy and, drowning actually right now, most people, but I think that, everybody's starting to go to events right now. And I think one of the big things you can do that doesn't take really any extra effort on your behalf is look around the room and see if the events that you're attending aren't diverse, if the panelists are all men and we're in a women-dominated industry, or if there's people of just one race that are on there, or if you're not seeing anyone that's representing LGBTQ plus, just to talk to the event organizers and say, I really, really would like to see this at future events. And then I think the other thing that people can do that's pretty easy is just, when you see your peers and they're asking for something within the industry, and we're talking about minorities here, and it doesn't, whether it be racial or abilities, because one of the things I want to mention too is, so I'm half Chinese, so have a racial minority component, but I also have a disability as well. You guys are seeing me on a good day, but I have an autoimmune disease that sometimes I'm in a wheelchair and I'm not able to walk. And so I also have like that side of things and have become a lot more sensitive to that since that kind of happened to me. So those I think are easy things that people can do that they can incorporate when they're going to events and getting their learning on.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm going last because I'm the only guy.
I'm going next.
Okay.
I know. I was thinking about you too, because when she said when they're all men, I'm like, that's you, Edward. Let me be quiet. No, but some things that I would recommend agents right now in this busy time is to work with supplier partners that you might not have worked with before. So for instance, I had a group that wanted to go out on a yacht in Tulum. Well, there's this new Black-owned yacht company. So yes, maybe I would have went somewhere else, but I'm like, no, this time let me support this. So it's like looking at who you're working with, doing business with, your partners, and seeing if you can reach out outside of your normal 3 or 4 people that you always work with, because there's tons of great minority-owned tour company suppliers that are not necessarily on the radars of the consortiums you're a part of, or even your host agency, and they don't have the money, they don't have that investment like some of the bigger companies can, but you can still support them and still make sure that your clients have a great experience. So that would be one thing that, as we're getting busy again and we're booking already, looking at where we're booking, who we're booking with, and moving forward that way. One other thing is, as things are coming back, to push back against those suppliers and host agencies and consortia and all the people you do business with. If you're seeing like they're sending you a funky marketing brochure that does not work for you, to say, hey, what else you got? Or like, this is a good time to reflect and look at who you're doing business with, why you're doing business with them. And if you do enjoy this one partner, the supplier, looking at how you can help improve them. Like it's kind of a back and forth. It's not just for you, but for them too. Like, hey, I love working with you. I also see that there's an area of improvement. Let me help, be a resource. So those would be my 2 biggest recommendations right now.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm loving when you talk about this subject. It's passionate to me, both travel and being diverse. So I'm going to piggyback off what they said because they were both great answers. But I'm going to give you an example where I was at a Visit Mexico event here in New York last week. They just opened up their first international office in New York. So I was one of the person that was invited. And I was kind of taken away. Being that Tulum is like right now the hot spot for most people in my community. I was the only person of color in the room, in the whole room. And I made a note to myself, thank God, there was some high level execs there from Visit Mexico and some politicians. So I said, when I was able to network with them there, but I said to myself, when I have them on a one-on-one or a phone call or in person, just to, like Courtney said, like, congratulations on your new office. However, I noticed I was the only person of color in the room. And I'm not sure if it was done on purpose, but I think it deserves a conversation and take it forward from there. Also, again, to stress Courtney's point, there are the little mom and pop minority owned tour companies, hotels, properties that you might not know about. But I think it's also something that the suppliers need to address and reach out to those one-offs or minority-owned businesses or tour companies or even venues for excursions. See if they can be part of their portfolio and maybe use like a scale system so that way they can have a fair opportunity of being exposed to the different travel advisors here in the US. So in turn, we can be like, oh, it's Black owned, minority owned. I think this particular group might love that and have a chance to bring local dollars to them as well. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Edward, how many people were at the event?
Has to be more than 200, 250.
Oh.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it helps to have a little context and I think for like the women that are on the call, like we've all gone into a room where it's all men. So even if you haven't had this experience yet, because you're usually in the majority, like for many women, we've all gone into that room and been like, oh gosh.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm usually the only guy in the room, period. Because there's not there are a lot more women travel advisors than there are men. And the only time that really works for me is when I go on a fam and so I can have room to myself.
Look at you taking advantage.
That's the only time it's a pro. But
that's really funny.
Yeah.
It works.
And it's true. Like I'm usually the only guy in the fam and everyone is doubling up or has to double up. And then they go, oh, okay, you're gonna have to have your own room. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
A small perk, a small concession for you.
Yes.
Yeah, just a little one. That's crazy. I'm glad you asked that, Steph, of how many, because that changes. I mean, not like even before. In my mind, I was visualizing like a small, like 10, 15 people.
No.
I wasn't. Because that's a normal,
that's
a normal thing, I would say, even from my perspective of joining different events, conferences, there are usually tons of agents and 2 or 3 that look like me. So that's like a normal, I would expect for him to say 100 and 200 because that's usually how they're set up.
Yeah.
Because it was a major event. It was their first ever international office in the US. So a lot of media, press, politicians, and higher level execs in the whole Visit Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I so my parents have a travel agency as well. So I kind of grew up in the industry and my dad is always the only Asian man. And I kid you not, once I was talking to a friend in the industry and they were like on some kind of a ship christening or something. And I was like, oh, my parents are on the ship. Big ship. And he's like, oh, cool. And I was like, have you seen an Asian man? And he was like, oh my gosh, I think they're at the bar with me. And it was my dad's. He's like, I just have to be like, oh, just look for the Asian man. And that's my dad.
Wow. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but just because this goes really well with what we're talking about is what are some ways that we can change that? I mean, I know, Edward, you talked about talking to them and just saying, hey, like this, why was I the only person of color here? But even for someone who's not of color or not the minority, like what are some things that everyone can do?
I think everyone, there's an old saying where if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So if you're not doing anything and you see what's going on and you don't say anything, you're part of the problem. Everyone needs to be a part of this because at the end of the day, it's going to be a win-win for everyone. African Americans in 2019 spent 109 billion on tourism and leisure travel, up from 63 billion in 2018. So we might be missing the boat just on that aspect, which I can talk about, because people like to do business with people they know and people in their own community. And if we're not really part of the decision-making levels in tourism, we're losing those dollars to the online travel sites. and then
Mhm.
everyone loses.
Yep.
You understand
And
what I'm saying?
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of him, to take it a step further, Muslim women, I think it was 220 million, and really Asian women are the biggest spenders in travel. They're at the trillion mark. But those are all three, from Black to Muslim, those are all minorities that we're missing out on. But I think it goes back to the investment. So investing in minority-owned business or agents that come into the business, the mentoring. Like when I got in the business, and I didn't have a travel background. I was a fundraiser. I came in, I didn't know who to ask for what. There was no one holding my hand until I started like really putting myself out there. I made some connections, and like Kerr Matthews is one that like took me and it was like, okay, Courtney, here's how we're going to do it. Like, we're going to set you up. But like, what was I going to do? You know, I didn't have any, I was like, oh, so this is how you do this, or this is what board I need, or this is who I need to be connected to, or like, oh, why are everybody, you know, virtuoso? Like, does that even matter? Is that even important? There was no one for me to look up to or to kind of guide me through the ranks. So like, how do I build a travel agency from the ground up? I don't always want to be an independent contractor. And even those who do, they're still like, they don't know all their choices are past. It's kind of like we don't have the access, the knowledge, the information. So the investment part, like I feel like until we change that, investing and mentoring and really like taking in, I think that's part of allyship. Like, oh, I'm at this event and everybody is white. So next time we need to like recommend other people, like, oh, Courtney, she's a new agent. She would be great to attend this conference or this film, or, oh, there's a speaker and she does this. Oh, we need to invite her. Like, we've got to, it's not just about being aware, it's the action piece. That's what I'm saying. Like, to me, you can't support me by liking me. That don't help me. Like liking my stuff, putting the square or telling me, girl, I got your back, that does nothing for me. Like investing in me, whether that's time or your dollars, because that's really what we're talking about. Like, that's what's going to move the needle, is more important than you just saying, yeah, girl, next time, or like, I like this, or, oh, sharing my stuff. All that's good and well, but that doesn't help me build my business or put me in a position to where people see me as the expert, and or now I work my way up, even on the leadership side or executive. Say I'm not a travel agent, say I'm a hotelier. Like, we need to see more of us, like, that are leaders, that are moving our way up. But they can't get there if they don't have a framework. They don't have a path. They don't know.
Right. And I think that's where ABTP, the Association for Black Travel Professionals comes in. They came up at a perfect time. I think they just opened their doors in the fall, and I think it's something that's much needed right now, because what Courtney is talking to is what the goal of the association is, just to be to give people that spotlight, and to network with different Black-owned and minority-owned businesses. This is not just, let me make it clear too, it's not an association just for people of color. It's for everyone who wants to see diversity in the travel industry. So just because the title might say, oh, it's only for African Americans or people of color, it's not. If you have the same goals for minorities, then you're free to come in and put in your 2 cents and, roll up your sleeve and see how you can help.
Yeah. And just one thing I'll add to that is, if I'm not Black and I hear about the Black travel agents, why wouldn't I want to be a part? Because this is what I get from clients that I work with from Compass Collective. My Brandon, you were talking about, they're looking for diverse. How can I be diverse? Oh, Courtney, whatever, on my website. Have you joined? Have you sat in on a meeting? Have you met the president or the board? Have you went to a webinar that they're hosting? ABT, they always put on webinars. Can you go to them and say, hey, I would like for your agents or people in your organization to learn more about me and how I do business? So if anything, you need to be a part of the places that you're trying to get into. It's just like, if you want luxury clients, where are luxury clients at? Same thing, if you want a diverse audience, if you want to go where people with disabilities, then you're going to show up in their spaces. If you want to be around more Black people, you're going to show up where they show up. Like, you have to do the steps, like the marketing. The way you talk to one clientele might not be the way you talk to them. If you want cheap budget clients, then where are they? Like, how do they think? So you're going to go to them. that applies across the board, even when you're talking about diversity. So that's the one thing when they're like, how can I be more diverse? And then the first thing I'm like, have you reached out to these? Oh, do you know about the Black Travel Alliance? Do you know about United Voice? No. Well, you haven't even done your research then. Because there's several organizations, Stephanie Jones, there's several people. I mean, Steph, they just launched Industry Voices. Like there's several places that there are platforms out here that you can utilize. Now, one, you can say, oh, I didn't know, but also have you asked people, like don't have me trying to help you look diverse. You got to help yourself first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking like, because I think it was you, Edward, that mentioned or maybe it was Courtney, no, I can't remember, about the like consortia, just their suppliers, because it is pay to play to be a preferred supplier. And I think like on the suppliers end, they need, or on the consortia and host agencies end, they also need to switch their mindset and to say, if we want to get more of these small mom and pop minorities and try to start promoting them, we need to not have this be pay to play for like we need to have 5% or 10% or whatever percent of our preferred suppliers be these smaller minority owned or woman owned businesses, because they can't afford that pay to play and they're never going to be able to get it.
Yeah, that's what I meant by having some type of like even a scale system for that. So to give them the opportunity, but because they're a smaller business, start off somewhere where you can meet them halfway.
Yeah, because there just can't be change unless the people that have the power are making it. And that's why like allyship is so important, because if you're one of the people in power, you're the one that can really, really make the change happen. You have the connections, you have the know-how, you're in. It's a lot harder for people that don't have those connections.
One thing that I was going to bring up too, because I remember when I was talking to you yesterday, Edward, so talking about the LGBTQ space, and you mentioned that there was a conference that you went to once. It's just a perfect example of getting yourself in those spaces. Can you share what that was all about and just kind of like some of the things you learned? Because I was like, I would have never thought of that.
Right. So 2 years ago, I went to a conference for that community in the city. And it was my first time. And I was blown away at some of the situation examples that I learned. So we have the things that we travel for and we take for granted, and it's hard for them sometimes to travel. So have I don't want to say the wrong term, and I apologize if I mess it up. But trans gender. When we go through the metal detectors, we don't even think about it. But on the other side of the metal detector, the TSA agent or whoever agent it is hitting a button for men or women who are passing through. So when a transgender passes through and the person hits women, and that's not what they see in the X-ray, then that person is exposed to like a very embarrassing and hard, like, okay, now we have to go further and to see what's going on. So we take that for granted, but these are some of these things, if we notice what happens, we might take a different look and see how we can make their travel easier, even as simple as sometimes, we have maybe a couple, same-sex couple going to a hotel, they ask for a king bed, but when they get to the front desk and they see two men or two women, they automatically give them two double beds. And again, this is things that we don't think of, but these are things that happen in that community that I'm glad I went, so I'm able to serve that community that's in our database that much more better and to think of how they think. And what actually happened too was because of that, I actually reached out to my gay and lesbian clientele and said, listen, I would love to have like a impersonal, informal discussion about travel and your experiences so I can better know, so I can better serve you. And it turned out to be one of the most enlightening conversations I've had with a group of people, and it helped me serve them better.
Yeah. I kudos to you for like going in, getting training and trying to better understand what your travelers' need are. Because I mean, I think it can even be as simple. So we're doing our big travel agent survey right now, which, by the way, can I do a plug really quick, Stephanie?
Yes.
Super important. If you're listening, we're doing our travel agent survey. They use the data. ASTA uses it for lobbying. We use it to give data on the travel industry. Go to hostagencyreviews.com/survey and please take it. It's open for the next month or so. But it can even, like when we're doing our survey, it can even be as simple when we're asking demographic information, instead of saying like, what's your gender, male or female? Because I remember growing up as being a biracial person, it was always like, what's your race? And I was like, I'd be confused every time, because it wasn't until maybe 15 years ago that there started being where you could check all that apply as biracial or multiracial people started becoming more prevalent. But I mean, it can be as simple as making sure like you're not having for gender, just male or female. You can have other options for people because it is a spectrum. And I think like putting thought into things like that and making sure that people feel included and recognized is really important. Because I remember the first time that I got to fill out something where it was check all that apply. Like I texted like my sister and I was like, oh my God, you'll never believe what happened.
Took a snapshot of it.
I know, we were just like, oh my gosh, the world is changing.
Good stuff, good stuff.
That's awesome. So another question here is, and I wonder if some of these, if there's anything that we're missing, but is there any topics in the industry that you think are just the industry as a whole is just afraid to talk about and bring up and face? And is there any good ways to bring these up if there are any?
I think a lot of them are on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah, it's just a matter of people actually doing them instead of being like, this is an issue,
Right.
and then nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the big problem.
Let's put some action to it.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think people know and they're aware. It's just like, does it phase them? Why would they make a change? You know, does it matter? Like, you've got to think, we'll take a huge I'm going to say Delta. I'm not saying Delta is doing this. I'm just using them as examples. So Delta, don't kill me. They're actually a company that's kind of turned the corner and I've seen good strides. So like, that's a plus. But say you're Delta. There's billions and billions of dollars. What is the incentive for them to be like, oh, now we want to be inclusive? You know, like people are going to fly or they're not. That's the whole reason why agents got taken out of the whole commission with the airlines. Like, you're going to fly or you're not. So if you're a high up exec, we're not going to say they're good people or bad people or all this, but like they're looking at the numbers. So if it doesn't really move the numbers for them and they're still profitable at this point, it might be like, oh, this is good PR. But you've got to look at it like they're probably thinking like, okay, yeah, we'll throw up the little black square, do the likes. But like, I'm looking at our numbers and obviously people are still booking with Delta, you know, like people are still booking our hotel, like until you stop investing. So if I'm a Four Seasons and everybody says we're never going to book a Four Seasons again, then it doesn't matter. Like everybody, like if we're going to say, we're all going to be in on this and we're going to boycott, everybody has to do it, because then I feel like, again, I talk a lot about investing and dollars and all of this, like liking and lip service is one thing, but where you spend your money is the biggest thing. And it's not just the travel, in politics, everything, like everything to me comes down to when people see change, like if it makes your pockets hurt or they start losing money, now they start wanting to put on webinars and, hey, Eric called me today, you know, like at the end of the day, it's not a factor until they're hurt. Does that make sense? Like
their bottom line is where they really listen.
And you got to think, on top of everything that's happened over the last year, and with COVID, they had no choice but to listen, because they were losing money because of COVID and everything being closed and the social injustice that was going on in the world. So like you kind of hit them when they were already at a low point. But let's really reflect and look back. Do you think if COVID wouldn't have happened and people had time to look at this, there would have been as much change? And I'm
Yeah,
not saying yes or no. That's just something I want to throw out there for us to ponder and to reflect and think about. But industry executives and leaderships very at the top level, do you think they're really caring about diversity and inclusion? Or do you think they care about the appearance of diversity and inclusion? There's a difference.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think
And I
like,
think go
sorry,
ahead.
no, let's have you go, because last time I got to go. So you go this time.
I was saying that just like we had to take a second look at the suppliers we do business with because of COVID and how they reacted to us and in turn to our clients. So we looked at other suppliers to work with going forward. We still same thing. We have to do the same thing in this situation with diversity and inclusion. If the suppliers are not sitting down and listening to you and then in action, then maybe you have to take a second look at who you're doing business with.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard thing to look at though, because this is the thing. I agree wholeheartedly, but then you've also got to think, especially, well, I still got to eat. I got to have my business up. I want to be the change I'm going to like, but if I stop doing business with these suppliers, they're like, oh, I'm out of business.
No suppliers are created equal, just like no BDM is created equal.
Right.
And change is never easy.
I know that's right.
So you have to see what's important to you. Where's the line between being profitable and being right? If that makes sense. So yeah. Go ahead, Steph. Sorry.
No, that was great. I'm glad you shared it. So I was thinking about the question you asked Stephanie about, like, is there anything people aren't talking about? And, actually one thing I haven't heard about that I was just kind of thinking about is that, so kind of as a person that, like, as a business that sends out emails to, like, we have an email list of maybe 20,000, like something that I never hear, and I want people to know that happens, because I think sometimes it can be easy for people to be like, oh, we're making change and all these things, and there's not people pushing back. But I mean, we have done something for Pride Month, the past, I don't even know, like maybe 5 years or something like that. But every time we push something out, I get emails back from people that are homophobic and telling me, like, or when we pushed something out last summer on kind of George Floyd's killing. And it was, for me, it happened in my neighborhood, like in my city. And, a couple blocks from me is where one of the precincts is. And so it was like in my face. And so we pushed out an email and definitely got a lot of responses back. And that's not like a huge surprise. I know it's incredibly polarizing, but I mean, for me, it's very surprising the number of people that take the time to write back something nasty. Well, I should, like, ignorant. Some of the people I can have a conversation with, but that is something that happens. And I've never heard anyone say anything like that when Travel Weekly pushed something out. Like, you just think like, oh, they're doing an article or a webinar on this, and you don't realize that they very well may be getting nasty emails back about from people that don't want the change.
Well, I know that when ABTP opened up, got some postings and emails that, in your word, ignorant across the country, and it just showed to the point that they opened up at an important time, because if they're getting all these emails, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, and I think people don't really see that or hear about that.
Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you say more when you don't reply or say anything or respond. If that makes sense. You don't give that negative email the time, because that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, it depends on what the tone of the person. Sometimes I'm just like, whoa, angry, like that's crazy. An angry bird right there. We're just gonna walk away, not changing their mind.
Correct.
But I think that's probably where more education needs to come in, and who's responsible for that. You know what I mean? Like, are the suppliers, or the consortiums, or host agent, are we, like Travify, as an industry, who is the one that's going to say, let's educate people about all of these things? And what does true allyship mean? You know, because I think that also kind of gets, it's like you're for us or against it, like, and that's not what allyship is or what it's about. So I think it's turned this thing, if you're for this, you can't be for that. If I believe this way, then I can't be empathetic towards these people. You know what I mean? Like, I think we've become an either or type of society or community, and it shouldn't be like that. It doesn't have to be an either or. It can be an and. Yeah.
No.
I think life is much more complex than just, if I do this, I can't do that. Everyone is different, and everyone needs to realize that. And I think, to your point, I think it's everyone's responsibility to do something, small, big, in between.
Yeah.
Even us as individuals. Why don't once a week we actually, on purpose, go and talk to someone outside our community just to see if we can break down some stereotypes, one by one. I mean, if it doesn't work with this person, maybe it'll work with the next person. Just keep trying. When I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood, Caribbean neighborhood, and when I got to high school, I consciously decided to go elsewhere to go to high school. And unbeknownst to me, when I did it, it was a whole new community that I was surrounded with. But it helped me understand them and them understand me, and the communication got better. So when I got out of high school and into college and corporate America, because I surround myself with different types of people, I was able to communicate with different types of people in my career. And if people are just sticking to their own, even you don't even know that you're doing it. You just know you got your friends, your family, they're all in the same community, but you don't have anyone outside of your race as a friend. I'm not talking about a coworker or that, oh yeah, I got a Black friend. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really going out and integrating with other people. So at the end of the day, we're actually going to be a stronger community because we're breaking down these stereotypes and the media, what the media shows. I remember, this is years ago, real quick, I was on the train. There was a couple across from me that were trying to get to the airport, and they spoke French, and I speak French. So I was like, let me find out what's going on. So I told them where to go. I told them how to get there. 2 months later, a month later, they come back and say, thank you so much for letting us, showing us how to get to the airport, blah, blah. Not only did we get there on time, we got upgraded, whatever. And she told me, listen, if ever you come into Paris, please let me know because I work for Air France. So I was like, oh, okay, fine, thank you. And then she took a step further. She was coming back to New York and she said, hey, I wanted to meet you so I can give you something for helping us.
Oh.
We did that, and I asked her, are you hungry? And she said, oh yeah. I said, all right, let me take you out to lunch. She said, all right, we'll go to Brooklyn. Have you ever been to Brooklyn? No, we actually just, usually when we fly in, we stay in Manhattan and then we fly the next day. We don't hear good things about Brooklyn. I said, oh, let me change your mind. So I took her out to lunch this place, different races, different people, all having a good time. And she was amazed at what she saw because through the media, Brooklyn was not a safe place to go. And with just one lunch and a half hour of time, totally changed her mind. So it doesn't take a lot. If someone really wants to change and see something else than what stereotype is showing them, so be it.
Right. And I think that, like, Courtney, when you're asking where does the change come from, I think the change comes from each of us right. Doing small steps and reaching out to other people and trying to, like, that's one of the reasons that I reply back, not to the really, really angry people, but like to people that are just, like, I know that they're human and they have a conversation, and instead of just like rebuffing them and saying like, oh, like, right. I want to talk with them. And that's the way to get people to kind of have broader views is right. Not by shunning them, but by having a conversation. So I think
where they come from.
Yeah. Like, I always think the change really happens with us. Like, the big change happens up on the top. but each of us making these small things and being very conscientious about things is, I think that grassroots movements also has a lot of power.
Yeah, totally agree.
Good. All right, Stephanie. What's
I got ready for the next
one. I'm like,
Just
what's
so
next?
We are ready. We are ready to
for the
solve
next
world
one.
hunger.
Here we go. Well, so this is a good one. This actually pivots very well. Is where can everybody find resources? So I mean, there's, like just as you were saying, I mean, there's the grassroots side of, you know, educating yourself and everything, but where I know there's so many resources out there. So what are your guys' favorites?
I have so many. Like, again, Edward's already put in a plug for the Ages of Black. I always mess up. I always say ABT. I always get the
ABTP.
letters. Yeah,
ABTP.
I always get those confused. But then there's the Black Travel Alliance. That's more on the content creation, but they have a lot of great things going. BAME is another one. Again, I've looked, because Mary Stein, like, they just put out something today, their newsletter, about what was it that I just read?
I don't, Courtney, what was it?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, the LG, how to make
LG, how to make, and I was like, this is so good. Like, it makes me want to share. So, like, that's good. United Voices in Travel is a group that's come together. Stephanie Jones, even one of the influencers are like Anika, the traveler who has a travel show. Like, she's always trying to kind of break down the stereotypes. There's so many people, like the research reports that are coming out, like literally all you have to do is like get out there and start typing or Googling, and you're going to find things. I mean, I think I just named like 6 or 7 places, right?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try. I was going to.
You're dominating it.
Yes,
you're taking everything.
I'm like this,
a lot.
yeah.
And after this too, I am planning in the article. It might take me till tomorrow, but I'm going to put all of these in at academy.travify.com. So make it easy.
Yeah.
And there's also the New York City tourism. That's New York City Go. They started a program last year, and it's a permanent fixture in their outreach to highlight different Black-owned, minority-owned hotels, tour companies, venues, and they highlighted, I think it's once a week or once every couple of weeks in a webinar. So they've actually taken a great step in highlighting not only from the what New York has to offer as far as tourism, but the people who make tourism happen as far as the different restaurants, you know, because restaurants are part of tourism. We travel to eat. So they highlight that. They highlight the tour companies, the like Harlem or other places of interest that really talk about the Black experience and what they offer. So that is, for me, being in New York, and I do have quite a few inbound clients that come into New York. It's a no-brainer who I go to get information in that aspect.
Yeah. And just on the kind of disability side of things, so there really hasn't been anything for travel, which has been, but there's this new conference that came out, I think right before the pandemic, Travelability, and it is an amazing source of information for, like, it's not just like physical disabilities, it's if you know, they have autism specialists within there and autism programs within there. So they have, I don't know, like, I just looked at their resources and also looked at their roster of speakers. And like within each of them, you found like the influencers that were doing thing and the certification programs that are out there. IGLTA, the International Gay Lesbian Travel Association. That's another great one. If you're looking to learn
that's
more.
actually the seminar I went to, the conference I went to.
Cool.
Yeah, they're going to be in Atlanta this year.
Oh yeah, and I see like Patrice just wrote in Patana. Patana is another great one.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
let me just plug
Patrice.
Irina Pender with Smart Flyer, creating Equator, the mentorship program for minority students that want to get in the travel industry. And they're pairing them up with travel industry executives and leaders. Yeah, Equator, EQTR. But like, just I'll send you the information so you can get it out. But that's another thing, because that's where, again, mentoring and the investment and bringing people into our industry and actually pairing them with people like that program, I'm very excited about. That was my quick plug. I'm done.
I hadn't heard about that. So yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was looking at this. Well, one thing actually too. So Rhonda asked us a little bit earlier ago. But Edward, can you tell us where everyone can find more information about the Association of Black Travel Professionals?
Sure. I'm gonna put the address. It's aptprofessionals.org, and I'll put the link in the chat for everyone.
And there was one question I saw it earlier. I'm looking for it now. Somebody had mentioned that there's just so many out there, or I think it was women-led. I'm not seeing it now. Women-led organizations. There's just so many. So do you guys have any tips for, I mean, I think that's a really good problem to have, but is there any tips that you have of finding, ones that are really, they've been going for a while or extremely credible? Any things that you can look for? Because there's, so many, which is, again, a really good problem though.
Well, I find that there's not a lot of like woman focused ones for the leisure side of travel. There is for like the corporate and business, like Win It is a, one that's very popular there. But when I look at kind of the content they're creating, and it leans more that way. But I mean, and Courtney, when you're talking about all the different organizations that kind of came up within the last year and a half to support Black travel professionals, like I was so happy to see the ABTP come up, because there wasn't anything specific to like travel advisors. It was more like Stephanie Jones is an amazing resource, but she also, she's more on the like DMO side of things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then Black Travel Alliance is on the content creator.
Yeah, because I was like, we're not influencers.
Yeah.
And like, so I was like just so excited to actually have something that focused in the niche that we're all in.
Yeah. Also, I just want to touch base a little bit real quick on what you just mentioned, like meeting planners and meeting professionals. Also know that like, even with that, meeting planners, Black meeting planners have a hard time finding locations for their events or meetings, because 42% of their attendees said that they felt unwelcome in past destinations. 42%. So, that's not a number to sneeze at.
And so just to piggyback,
it's across the board.
And to piggyback off of that, I have some friends in that space, meeting and events, and they have found that they are treated differently. So their counterpart doesn't have to pay $100,000 deposit, but they are asking them up front to pay. Again, I made that number up, but I just want you to see like, oh, their contract looks different from their counterpart. And they've actually tested it. I have a friend that is in that event and meeting space corporately, and she asked for a contract for an event and then had her friend do it for the same, and their contracts were different. When the deposit and the payment deadlines were different for her than the other one. So that's another thing. As far as the meeting, like not only are they not welcome, but if you are that area, like if you are that event planner and or meeting professional, you might not be getting treated a certain way. So that's something to think of. But just another thing to piggyback off the women's group, one that, and I think I sent you the email yesterday, WITS, Women in Travel. So those are my people. Like I love their conference. It's probably the most diverse conference I've ever attended in my life. And they have men, but what I'm saying, like it's women in travel. So obviously that's not their focus, but yeah, so but like excited. I've had like Asian women, like Muslim, like even their panelists and like their conference speakers, like she has done an amazing job. Wonderful is the actual group name or the organization. And then they put on the Women in Travel Summit, but they have like different events and conferences and functions and all of that. So that is a good organization to be a part for the women. But I would say, to piggyback off, you said how do you choose them, or how do you do, like, I don't do business with people that don't align with my values. So I start with what I'm passionate about or what I value and see if they align with the organization or company. Or is there synergy? Do I believe in their purpose, their mission, their project? Can I be a part and help move it forward? Like, is there that synergy or those values align? You know, if I'm not getting a good vibe, or like, I'm like, what is this they're talking about? Or like, they're all over here and then it's probably not a good fit.
Yeah. And can you say that conference again? Shailene just asked what conference you were talking about that you really liked.
It's called WITS, and it stands for Women in Travel Summit, but it's put on by Wonderful, and Wonderful is WANDERFUL.
Nice.
Santos, Beth Santos is the founder and CEO. But when I tell you, I mean, literally, I just sent Stephanie that newsletter, and
yeah,
they have wonderful programming.
I'll add that to the article. We'll put that up because that was a really good one. And I have to say, Margie Jordan, she's on here. I feel like there's a celebrity watching this. She mentioned, Margie. She said Travel Unity, which that's what I was thinking in my head because I just saw on LinkedIn about that. So yeah, Travel Unity was another one. If we didn't,
is that different from the United Voices? I don't know. You know, I named too many, so I'm like,
it's a lot. Yeah. It's again, a really good problem to have. And I will highlight all those on that article too. And feel free, everyone, too, if there's something that we talked about that you can't remember, because I know we talked about so many things, feel free to email us at academy@travify.com and I'll get to the bottom of it and figure it out for you. But since we just have a few minutes left, which is sad, time is flying by. I just want to see though, is there anything, like any last words that everyone has, or just something that you want to leave us with? And
that's a lot of pressure.
I know, it's so much pressure. I'm sorry.
I'm glad it's ladies first.
That means Steph first.
Thanks. Appreciate you throwing me under the bus off. I guess I would leave people with that, the change really can start with you. And I think the easiest way to kind of break down barriers is to make a concerted effort next time you're at a travel industry event, or even in just your personal life, to sit down by someone you don't know, or someone that's sitting by themselves. Because I know, like Edward, I've seen at events where when the men are there and they're just by themselves and just kind of like, reaching out to anyone that's like a minority or looking like, they're kind of sitting by themselves, and reaching out and chatting with them and making a connection there. I've met so many cool people through the years doing that. Instead of just hanging out with the group, and all sitting at a table and being very like in this clique. I mean, it's great to hang out and catch up with your friends, but make an effort to, meet one or two new people and sit by them at lunch at the events, I think is a really easy way to do things.
Look, I'm like, I'll second.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll second that. I mean, let's just keep these like discussions going, but also know that we've got to get out of just discussing and take action. You know what I mean? Like, that's my biggest thing. Like, we can talk to where I feel like what they say to you're blue in the face. I don't want to do no old school, like stuff my dad would say, but like, we can sit here and talk, and we can like stuff, and we can share, and we can all kumbaya, but like, we've got to take action.
Kumbaya.
Yeah, I know. And we can get woo-woo and we can do all of this, but like really taking a look at what you think you can move forward today. So like Steph said, we all can do something. So what is that one thing you can commit to today, even as we leave this webinar, that that will be your focus? You don't have to do everything, but what's one thing? It's just like when you're trying to lose weight, I'm just going to cut out soda. I'm just going to cut out bread. Don't try to work out, cut out bread. You get overwhelmed, you quit, and you're back to gaining weight. So what I'm saying is like, can we commit today to one thing that we're going to do ourselves? Whether that's like, again, sitting by somebody or recommending, or who's this one supplier we're going to talk to this week or next month or something. But like, I'm about action, because you can say anything and everything. You can say you love me, you can say you're for me, but until you actually are making those strides, or we're trying to make that change and I'm seeing you do the work, it doesn't really matter. I'm tired of the lip service. I'm tired of all the posts and the articles. There's nothing wrong with that. And all of this is great. And I want to keep this like going on. But like, even if it's saying today, I'm going to pick up a book about X, Y, and Z that I know nothing about. You know, like it could be that simple. I just want us to like leave here with an action item. You know, like, oh, I'm recruiting for a board. Oh, let me think about this person. Or I'm recruiting someone to my team. Let me think about this. Like literally just break down whatever you're going or you're doing this week or next week, or oh, we're back booking. Okay, I'm gonna look at one new supplier that I would jump on a call with that I probably wouldn't normally do and talk with them. You know, like let's just commit to doing one action item and see how that goes.
You know, Courtney, I wish I went first because you took exactly what I was going to say in the beginning. I was like, oh, exactly what I was going to say. But yeah, let me follow up with that. Like keep it simple. Like as I said, once a week, find someone who is not a community and sit down and talk to them and see if you can strike up what you have in common and go from there and break down those walls and stereotypes. And then take it to the next level on a business level. Talk to your BDMs who represent those suppliers and see if you can help them help you in bringing more Black-owned businesses, hotels, or whatever it may be, travel related, to the forefront so you can do business with them. That's what they're there for. You know, they're there to help you your business. So yes, you can do it yourself, but those suppliers are supposed to be doing that for you. So help them. Or there's plenty of times I've went somewhere to a destination and I found a minority-owned hotel or DMC, and I bought it to a supplier and say, hey, these guys are probably fit perfect with your portfolio. Give them a call and see if you can negotiate with them. Something like that. Put some action behind your words, as you both were saying. It's great that we're talking about it, but we've been talking about it for a long time throughout in general. And I think someone posted in the group, in the chat, that unfortunately, though travel and hospitality is our business, I think we're the slowest we're the slowest industry to make us more diverse. And I'm sure you all see it when you go to the different events and conferences, like I said when I went last week. But at the same time, to Steph's point, I don't. I try and work the room. You're there when you go to an event or a conference. You're there for business. So yeah, you want to sit with the people you know and be comfortable, or do you want to work the room and network with people who you never know might be the next best thing, or might be the referral you need. I remember I went on a cruise, not a cruise. It wasn't a cruise. It was one of those
Just make them up.
Yeah, no. It's one of those you know, when a cruise invites you to their first sailing or whatever it may
Oh,
be.
the inaugural.
So they invite inaugural, and they bring the media and all these other people. And yeah, you know, the people, you know, yeah, I'm there to socialize with friends who are in the industry, but I'm also there to make connections with new people. And you know, as much as I want to go over here, I have time for that. Let me go over here, and I'm from a business sense, but it also can be from a diversity sense. So like, let me talk to someone new in this event and see if I can make a connection. So go out there and take some action, small, big, medium. Everyone has a responsibility to make a change.
That's awesome.
Edward, I think too, like that all the travel professionals on the call should join the ABTP, because this is like a specific group that is going to be keeping them up to date on what's happening and where they need help. And that
thank you for that.
Well, yeah, I just, you know, I'm just like a big fan.
I didn't have to.
I'm a fangirl.
Plug myself. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, if people really want to take action and they're not going to any event soon, like that's a really good way to stay plugged in on things and learn about the resources and, you know, to help support the cause. So
yeah, and the other thing too, we have suppliers that are joining the association, so you know, not that you know, but there's a bigger chance if they're spending their dollars to invest in ABTP, then they might be someone you want to deal with as well. If you know, that's important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Rhonda said she's joining as we speak.
Boom.
Look at
Yes.
this. That's the
Yeah.
action item. I mean, that's
Done.
perfect.
Drop the
For
mic.
today, and
Yeah.
then you got tomorrow's new
Yeah.
day. No, this is awesome. And Beverly said, I've enjoyed this meeting. It's so needed, not only in the travel industry, but in the world today. It's such a good conversation. But I just really want to thank once again our panelists. You all are so
Thanks.
amazing. And thank you so much for sharing your stories, your expertise, everything. It's this has really been incredible. And thank you everyone else for joining us here today as well. And we'll have this recording up here soon. And I'll get those resources in the article as they come in, as new things.
Okay.
We'll definitely get those ready for you. So thank you so much everyone again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for
I want to say
having
thank you,
us.
too.
All right.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, so much fun.
And now
Thank
we're gonna
you
have a
for
drink
spending my
for Stephanie's birthday.
I know.
Yes.
We're gonna go offline now and have a lot of fun.
yeah,
The after
it's
party
time.
Zoom.
Yeah, to the next Zoom. I'll send it to everyone. Just kidding. We'll rain check that. It's for sure it needs to happen though.
Listen, thank you again, and let's make 2021 the change that we need to happen.
Yay. See y'all.
Cool.
Ciao.